And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
And 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. You think I would know how to do this after having led the choir, but anyhow, I like music. I like symphony music, and I've been waiting for a game that has some sort of symphony style theming to it that actually feels like it does. So when I first saw this game, I was very excited about this, to go in and see a game that uses a musical instrument with the symphony orchestra. What a cool idea. Let's see how it plays. Okay, as you can see, there's a lot of board going on in this game. This is going to be the scoreboard, which is made up of 4 double-sided tiles. You're going to pick 3 of them and put them out here. Now, this board at the bottom of it, you're going to have these bars here, and this game is going to take place over 5 phases, A, B, C, D, and E. So you'll use these 2 batons to keep track. This is where you can place discs in A, then B moves from here to here, and then C moves from here to here, and so on. And that's the letters at the bottom. After B, D, and E phases, there's going to be a scoring. As the game goes by, people are going to be trying to put their discs on the different notes that are out here. There's also going to be black discs that are placed on notes that are out that basically just blocks other people from going there. Every time you put a note out, you're going to get points equal to which row it's in. So 3, 2, and 1, it's obviously best to be in the highest. At the end of the game, though, you're going to score points for having the most down in the bottom, then second most, and then third most, and only 1 in the top. So you can get a whole lot more points that way. Oops, I'm sorry. It's 3, 6, and 9. There we go. So having the most in a section. Also, you want to have the most in different areas, green, blue, and orange areas, and you'll be moving cubes up on the board, and you can get a lot of points if you have the most in each of those areas. Getting flats and sharps and whole notes also can move these cubes up by getting those. So there's a lot of points you can get immediately, and having the most in each section here can get you bonuses. So as you put these notes out, you're going to get a lot of points. And I just mention all this because I'm about to put this section away so that we can take a closer look at the main board. Now, one thing is there's a gazillion variants for this game, and there's a mixing in the rule books between them. You can play the most basic game, which shows you a very specific setup for these. So I could put out all these instruments and put on the discs of each of those players, and then you use those instruments to play. But in a basic, in the normal game, you'll be taking these and drafting these cards, and then taking turns placing these cards out on the board. And when you place cards out on the board, you will then take control of that card, or take control of a card on the board. You can even take control of the lead violin or the conductor. If you then have one in each row, an instrument in each row, you'll get some bonus tokens, and then whoever has the most tokens in each row will get bonus tokens. Once all the cards are out in positions, you will then go through A through E. In an A, this column will play B, C, D, E. When a column plays, you'll start with the discs from the first instrument, although this lead violin, if someone controls them, can always go first. And if someone has a card in that row that has a number 1 on it, that person gets to go before the bottom note does also. Then, starting from the bottom, you put 1 disc out, and then you go all the way up to the top, and then the next person, and you put the discs out. When you use an instrument, if you have one of these special ability tokens, you can put it on that instrument to enhance it and make that instrument better. Each disc instrument gets a lot of discs. You'll notice these are grayed out. If discs are gray, those discs only appear if this instrument's in the right spot. So if this one is here or here, it will have 5 discs. Otherwise, it just gets 3 discs. So you'll notice a lot like that. Some will give you extra points. So this instrument here gives you an extra point when you put them on here. And so instead of getting 1, 2, or 3 points, you'll get 2, 3, or 4 points. Some are linked together like this. When you place out 1 disc, you put them all out, which gives you an opportunity to put them out really quickly. Some, you put out this group together, and then the third one. But again, this and the fact that it's +1 points only works if it's in the right position where the piano needs to go. This here violin has a 1, which means it gets to go first in that column before everybody else, and it will give you a +1 and then a +2. There are some that can be put on top of other discs. You can go on top of somebody else. Some also give you neutral discs, which you really can't use to help yourself, but you can use to go after other players. Some cards are unblockable, which means you can put another disc on top of them, which means someone else can't go on top of your disc and you're protected. Some instruments have sharps and flats. Those are the only instruments that can go on those notes. And so you're going to go through and learn about a lot of these different special abilities. And again, some of the special abilities will only work, and you can tell because they're in gray, if the instrument's in the proper position. After all the discs from column A are out, then you'll move the batons on the board, and then you'll do column B. And then after column B, there's a scoring, then C, D, and after D, there's a scoring, then E after E, and then there's a final scoring. Like I said, as the game progresses, each time you finish a section, you'll see who has how many different flats and sharps you have, and at the end of the game, you're going to score points equal to how far you're up. So if you get every flat in the game, that's 42 points. Of course, if the other players are letting you do that, that's kind of crazy. And every sharp and every whole note, having the most in those blue, orange, and green sections will let you move up here, which will give you points. And then playing some bad notes can cause you to lose points. And like I said, there's a lot of other modules that are included with this, where there's different types of conductors, there's that are included with the game that will bring in special abilities that they have. There's different special things that can go on. I mean, there's really a lot of different little modules that can be added. But what I just explained to you is basically the base game, where you'll be drafting from these instrument cards, taking turns playing the instrument cards out, and then placing your discs one column at a time. So the game comes with a lot of wooden pieces, discs, and cubes that you'll be using to put on the different areas, and the cards themselves. Now, there's a lot of symbology in this game. I don't think it's too difficult. There are some cards that can only, if you play with an advanced section, only in the treble and bass clef, you can only play certain cards that are here. And then there's also numbered cards, so you can look up that specific card in the rulebook if you need to. The cards are good quality. The score track's a little bit of a pain, in my opinion, because you have 2 discs and you move through 1 through 10, and then you move this one. And sometimes maybe you're on like 36 and you get 8 points and you're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you're wait, was I in 30 or 20? I can't remember. That's not a big deal. You'll be constantly looking up what all these special things do. The rule book itself, this is my biggest complaint with the game. There's an easy rule book which kind of tells you the basic rules of the game and gives you these very specific setups, which honestly are a little bit boring once you get to the main game. The problem with the main rule book is there's a lot of different variants that are included with the game, and these variants will keep being mentioned. If you're using this variant, do this. If you're using this, do this. And sometimes it alludes to a variant and it doesn't mention that, so you're constantly having to skip chunks of the rules which aren't as useful. Now, the appendix here does give some basics here. They do occasionally assume you know something about music, and you're this back sheet here which tells you all the different abilities. You look at them. It was translated, this rule book. It's not easy to find stuff in. The rule book is unfortunately a big problem with the game. I get the game now, but it took a lot of work to do so. Now, taking the rule book out of the equation, I have to say it really hampers how Symphony plays. The thing is, I think Inside Symphony is a very excellent game. It's just that it's really hard to see from the surface. Like I said, the base game, where you already have the discs out there and you just take turns placing them out there, it's a somewhat mundane area control game. I mean, it's still interesting. Do you want to go in the lower notes? Do you want to go in the higher notes and get more points now and then try to get the area controls later? You fight over the instruments, that give you sharps and flats. But the thing is, if you take out the drafting part, you really take out a chunk of the game. So you need to play that way. To do so, you either need to play through a couple boring games to get to that point, or you need to go through this really fairly complex, not the best translated rule book. And I think the rule book could have been done so much better. You want to have all these different variants and options, great. Put them at the end. Don't even talk about them until you get to that variant. Just tell me how to play this base game of drafting and putting things out. There's a lot of symbology, there's a lot of stuff going on, and they did a good job at bringing it into the musical arena. once you struggle through all those rules, once you get through there, you're like, wow, there's some really interesting decisions to be made over the course of this game. Now, there's probably too many special abilities and too much going on that folks with analysis paralysis are really going to struggle, because they're going to sit there and go, okay, if I put that out, you can put that out there, and where should I put this? Now, I mean, the game has only a small section that you can play in at any given point in time, but you're thinking, okay, I want to score for sharps, for flats, for whole notes. I mean, whole notes, there are huge amounts of points, but there's only one per section. So is only one of us going to get the whole note? And if I take a whole note, am I forcing you to take one? Or are you going to let me have that whole note and concentrate on something else? Those are neat decisions, but those plus the special abilities, plus the conductor being able to, whoever controls the conductor can play one note for somebody as if they were that instrument twice per game. And so there's a lot of different decisions that can be made over the course of this game. And it's kind of like different sections. The first section is the drafting. Then the second section is the playing of the instruments. And the third section is bar at a time playing the music. And it works thematically. I like it. But again, it kind of requires you a little sometimes to know music to know what they're talking about. And then trying to figure out which parts of the rules are modules and stuff. And then just getting down to the core game feels like more work, which is why I'm dinging this one. Several points for that, actually. I like it. And I think there's if it was streamlined a bit with a better rule book, this could be a game a lot of people would really like. I think the idea is fantastic. I like the components. I like that these are in the game. I like how it looks, that there's the sheet music. I haven't tried to play the music. I don't know if it actually plays anything. But there's just a few too many rules for what essentially comes down to an area majority game, where I want to control the bars and I want to control the green and the blue and the orange sections. And when do I play these neutral notes to shut other people out? There's definitely some take that in this game. You're going to be putting your notes on top of other people, but you can see the take that coming because you can see every instrument in the game, but that also can slow the game down a little bit. So a lot of good things in Symphony, and those good things, when put together, almost sounds like an analogy here, make a beautiful orchestral piece, but that could be that way. Right now, there's just a few too many instruments, and it needs to be, a good conductor needs to come in, a developer, and I think streamline it a little bit more, and then it would be a fantastic game. As it is, check on the theme, check on how the theme integrates, and it's a cool area majority style game. Just a little too much for me to really recommend it. Dice Tower Judgment, great theme, could even be a great game someday.